I'm very excited to be making this video with my sister, Maya. And Maya is going to be talking about neurodivergence and mental health and borderline personality. So, Maya, would you be willing to maybe just share a bit about your mental health, neurodivergence, and also what it's like to have borderline personality disorder?
Um, so I have depression and anxiety and BPD and BPD, I just have really like strong heightened emotions that don't specifically come from like a specific thing. Like it's like I'm randomly sad or I'm randomly like really happy or really angry and I can't really explain why. Um So it's kind of like difficult, but I'm learning to like manage it and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about kind of growing up, what your experience with mental health was like? And I know some things probably were helpful and some things weren't helpful. So, yeah, anything that you could share about that?
Um, Growing up, I was diagnosed with all of those things like between maybe 5 years ago to now. So it's still like fairly new. BPD, getting diagnosed with BPD is pretty new. So growing up, I really didn't know what I was feeling and why. I do know that I had like pretty strong emotions that came out of nowhere. Um, and I was just like thinking to myself, like, oh, why do I have like these strong emotions? And some of them were like pretty scary for me to like feel at like a young age. And I had lots of like therapists growing up, but I don't think I think since I was so young, they were more focused on how I was feeling versus like diagnosing and things like that. So, um, it really helped to like get diagnosed and to talk about it to research and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. And this is maybe an odd question, but I know that sometimes therapists are afraid of labeling patients, especially if they feel like the label has a lot of stigma. So they might keep waiting to diagnose someone with BPD or tell someone that they have BPD. But do you think that, at least in your case, it would have actually been helpful to have that information sooner or to be told that this is a possibility at least?
Yeah, I wish I would have known sooner because um, I just genuinely didn't know why I was feeling all of these strong emotions. And I would think that like other people have these emotions too, but they just like masked it. So a lot of the times I would like mask and like kind of just like base what people see about me from what I see from other people. So a lot of the times I didn't express my true feelings because I didn't see other people like extremely happy, extremely sad, extremely like angry, stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do what they do kind of and then I know coming home from like masking my feelings all day, it was very challenging. Um so yeah, I just wish that they would have diagnosed me sooner so we could have figured it out. Um and I saw that like BPD doesn't um it doesn't like stay with you. Like you can manage it and I think it goes away maybe, I'm not sure. So like if when I was younger, if like I worked through that earlier in life, then later maybe I wouldn't have such a hard time now, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think in general, if people are supported earlier in life, it can help them then, and then it can also help prevent kind of compounding situations where, they don't have understanding of what they're feeling early on, which can lead to feeling isolated, which can snowball over time.
Yeah.
That sort of segues to my next question, which is, Um, I know personally for myself, so for context, I'm 9 years older than Maya. So I was the older sibling for sure. And I think I meant well, but I had this idea of, oh, I will try and do things that are helpful for Maya based on my understanding of what's helpful, which is not actually always what is truly helpful. So for myself, I like a lot of structure and things, and so I make you all these like very detailed, structured suggestions, which were probably, in hindsight, maybe a bit obnoxious or overwhelming. Um, and I think there's also just a lot of things I didn't understand about um, a variety of different things. So I guess I'm wondering, kind of in general, what help do you wish you'd had from me growing up? What help do you wish you'd had from schools, or the community in general? Or yeah, what resources
Um,
would have been helpful?
well, honestly, and this is not just like for the video, but you really did help me in school learn in with like learning in a different type of way. I know like in school it's very like teacher talks and you do, and it's not really, and like since I was in a very big school at first, there were just so many students that the teacher couldn't like sit down one on one with us and like help us. And I think I was a very like slow learner. Um, and I would listen to what the teacher said and it go out like the other ear and I wouldn't understand it and I get frustrated. And when I got frustrated, I like shut down and I had like tons of missing assignments, like because, and I didn't want missing assignments or like bad grades. I just shut down. So what like you did, like helping me um with like learning in like a physical kind of way, like how we um did that like line to learn negatives and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember that. That was really helpful because I was physically doing it. And then in school, I could in my head picture me standing there with you um doing the math equation. So that was really helpful. Um and then in school, just maybe I would like smaller classrooms. I don't know if that's like manageable, but just to have the teacher be able to do one-on-one with you. And also, I wish that teachers had more of an understanding of like mental health or like um understanding people like with learning disabilities or people who learn differently. I wish they had a more understanding of that so that they could kind of change it up in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think understanding can go so far. And speaking of that, so the next question is a little bit of a different topic, but I think there's still that theme of understanding. So I know that you've had experience working in group homes for neurodivergent youth and especially autistic youth. And you've had a lot of experiences kind of seeing gaps in quality of care. What changes do you think would improve the care that people get in residential facilities? And then also, do you think that your own experiences with mental health and neurodivergence maybe have helped you become even more empathetic towards the residents that you worked with? So sorry, no, it's like a very multi-part question, but any and all.
Um, I would say I've always been a very empathetic person, and um, I don't know if like that goes along with like BPD, but if I feel somebody else's emotions, I feel it really deep within myself. So like if somebody's angry, I feel angry, and then since I have like BPD, I feel more angry and stuff like that. But I would say I always have empathized, but then working at a home really just like was very mentally draining because of the way um, these workers would treat the kids. I worked in a home for autistic kids, so um, I just feel like there's tons of things that could be changed in there, and I wish it would. Um, did you ask me what types of things that could change? I
Yeah,
want to
like
change.
I guess as someone who's not working in the home, so this is purely speculation, but I would assume maybe better pay for workers, more workers, so there's like more people to give attention to kids, maybe more breaks. Anything like along those lines, or anything else that you think would be helpful?
I do feel like workers should get paid more in like these types of homes because they're doing things that like someone with like a nursing college degree would do in a way. Um, so I do feel like they deserve to be paid more, but I'd say more so they really have to watch what type of people work there. Um, I don't know how into detail I can go, but the people I worked with were like kind like terrible. Like they mistreated the kids in so many ways and knowing that, but being in a spot of where that's my income and I need to like make money to live and stuff like that. I it was hard for me to change jobs. So I stayed there a long time and I every day I just saw more and more kids getting mistreated. And so, I mean, you really can never tell someone's true intention of working at like a home like that or like a nursing home or something like that because I know there are some pretty bad things that go on in a nursing home as well. So it's really hard to tell like what people's true intentions are. Like they might not have a bad record, but they could have intentions of harming someone there. And there's really not like a ton of ways that like another worker can do something. Like you can talk to them. That's not going to make them change. You can talk to management. For my job personally, management was enabling the workers. So I couldn't go to management. And yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry that you were in that situation for so long, and I'm sorry that that situation is so common and so difficult to fix. Even even if you try to address it, it's really hard to make substantial changes in group homes. Unfortunately, I think the residents are in such vulnerable positions in any group home. If you were in charge of kind of a hiring process in a group home, are there specific qualities or I guess like red flags or green flags that you would look for when you were hiring? And no pressure to answer. Sorry, I know this is like getting a little bit off the question. So.
um I feel like I can read people very well.
Mm.
I felt like I've had like a gift in a way of reading people and kind of reading deeper in what they present. And I think that's because I used to do that. Like I used to act differently than how I present, so I can kind of like tell in a way. Um, and I'm very observant, so I can, you know, detect things that maybe someone else couldn't. Um, so I feel like, and this sounds like really silly, but just like getting the vibe of that person um, is the way that I would hire. Um, but also like really looking deeper into them, like looking their name up online or like police records, stuff like that. Um, and then I wouldn't like through my hiring process, I wouldn't really, sorry, um, have them start working right away. I'd rather them like um, just like kind of meet the kids, see how like they connect, or like wherever they work, like kids or like elderly people, like see how they treat them, see how they connect, um, just to make sure like it's the right fit in a way. But then again, like you can just never tell somebody's true intentions. Like they could come off like looking great and then, you know, I don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the idea of having kind of a slower onboarding process, and it can also help the person to maybe obtain more feedback or support at the beginning so they're not just being suddenly thrown into a new environment. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, thank you for your patience with my questions about group homes. I realize I diverged from the question list quite a bit. So the next one is, are there any assumptions that people often make about you related to BPD or mental health more generally that you think are just inaccurate assumptions or that you wish people wouldn't make?
Um, I feel like a lot of people who don't really know BPD make assumptions like, oh, I'm angry all the time, or I'm manic, or I go like crazy, and like throw things and, you know, get aggressive or something like that. Um, and they just solely think it's like anger that I feel. But I wish that they would, research a little bit more about BPD and see that like there's so many other things that like come with it. Um, and so I also have like heightened energy and I'm happy too. And then I also get really sad and like mixed with my depression, it can get really like dark and stuff like that. So it's not just like anger, and I wish like people knew that and that I don't just, throw things all over the house and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think people in general maybe have a tendency to see the most outwardly visible traits, but not always to notice as much when people are experiencing things deeply
Yeah,
internally. And maybe anger is like more consider more of a dramatic trait. I don't know, it's purely a
yeah.
conjecture. Conjecture. But yeah, no, thank you for that answer. It's very interesting. Are there traits of BPD or any, I guess, other mental health conditions that you experience that are hardest for you to accept in yourself or that have caused the most pain? So I guess like to give an example that's not BPD related, but like for myself with autism, I'm very happy to be autistic overall. I also ruminate a lot, like a lot, and that's probably the trait that I don't dislike it necessarily, but it can be kind of challenging. Do you feel like there's any sort of equivalent for you or equivalence or not so much?
Um, could you ask the question again?
Yeah, like are there traits of BPD or things parts of BPD that are hardest to live with, I guess, or that can at times be the most painful.
Um, I'd probably just say like not being understood in a way. Um, like I guess two things. Like one, not being understood in a way. Like a lot of the times I can't control how I'm feeling. Um, and I also sometimes can't explain how I'm feeling because I don't know why I'm feeling that type of way. Um, so there's a lot of like misunderstandings that can happen on like if I'm sad, then people wonder like what made her sad, like why is she sad? Why is she like, but in reality I don't really know. Or something small can trigger it. Um, and then it turns into a bigger thing because of how I'm feeling. And then I'd say anger is pretty hard to deal with because I'm naturally a very like I'd say I'm a very like kind, calm person. So then having that heightened anger like confuses me. It scares me. Like, why am I feeling angry? Um, like I can tell when I'm about to feel that way, like I start not caring as much, like kind of letting myself go in a way like, go, I don't care if this and this and that, when usually I care about it. And then like with anger, I just feel like such like a rage, like I could just like blow into flames in a way. And then it kind of scares me, like, why do I feel that way and stuff like that. So those are the two things that kind of suck with having BPD.
It seems like often people are afraid of feeling anger inherently. Maybe because when anger isn't channeled well, people can express it in really harmful ways. But I think sometimes it leads to people becoming afraid of it just like as an emotion, even if they're not acting on it. There can be guilt or shame for just feeling really intense anger, especially if, as you said and as you are, like you're such a kind, empathetic person who isn't normally like walking around bursting into flames. And it feels kind of
Yeah.
strange in that way. Do you think that contributes in some way to it being a difficult experience, or
Yeah, it's a really scary feeling. Um, and I can feel the different types of angry, like whether I'm personally just angry or if my BPD is contributing to my anger. And I think when my BPD is contributing to my anger, it's almost scary how I'm feeling and like what I'm thinking about. Like, um, I know when I was living in a group home, my house parents really cared about how I was feeling. And if I was angry, they would buy like plates and they would take me out to the middle of like nowhere and just let me like break the plates on the ground and just like scream on the top of my lungs and just let it out in a way that is like aggressive in a way, like with like breaking plates, but I'm not like doing it negatively, like fighting or, breaking something valuable or something like that. And I know that really helped me a lot to like just have people so supportive of how you're feeling and do that for you. Like they did not have to buy me plates to break or they did not have to let me, just go out to the middle of nowhere and scream, but they did. And that's something that like really helped. And a good way to that really helped me control my anger in a way and like let it out healthily. So
thank you so much. That's yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's a really neat example. Um, yeah, giving people healthy outlets for things can be so meaningful. Sort of related question. Do you find it easiest to communicate, I guess, on average, with other people who also have BPD?
I'd say it's not easier to communicate with them, but it is nice having something in common with them and like knowing that they know what it feels like to some sort of an extent. Um, and knowing that like they kind of have your back, like if you're feeling angry, like telling them, hey, I'm angry, and they're like, oh, I can understand that feeling. I'm not gonna like poke the bear or anything like that. I don't think it's like any easier to communicate with them personally. Maybe for like some people. Um, but I'm always very open about my BPD and stuff like that. So, um, like people know that I have it and I've kind of talked to them about it. So they've always been like, or the people I've told have always been supportive.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's a really interesting answer. Are there parts of BPD that you appreciate or things that you enjoy about having BPD or ways that you feel like it's shaped you as a person? I mean, I know personally, like there's a lot of wonderful traits that you have. I'd love to hear like whether you kind of view that as being intertwined with BPD in some aspects or kind of separate, or I don't know if that question
Um,
makes sense at all.
I don't know if I could really be positive about BPD, like, oh, like this is great to have, you know. I'd say like sometimes with like my heightened happiness, um, it's nice to have. I mean, I rarely have heightened happiness because I also have like depression. So, but I know some things get me like really excited, really happy, and it's almost like a drug to like feel like this like adrenaline and being so happy and stuff like that. But then there's also negatives like after that I crash and I'm like, it could be, like, an hour or a day, but after that, like, adrenaline rush and happiness, then I a lot of the times I'll, like, crash um and then with, like, having BPD and learning about it and stuff like that, um, it has shaped me to who I am, um, but again, it's not always good. There's always, like, negatives, so, yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense.
I
Is
don't know if I
there?
answered your question.
You did. No, you answered it. You answered it wonderfully. You answered all my questions wonderfully. Thank you for your patience with them. Is there anything, I was just trying to think if there's anything that I am forgetting to ask or anything that you'd like to add that wasn't on the questions list.
Um They have a support system, but also help yourself. Like, don't rely on people to help you when you're, going through heightened emotions and stuff like that. Just really work on it yourself. I know for like some time I was just not working on it really. Um, but then I was like, I need to learn how to control my emotions healthily and stuff like that because, it can harm like relationships with a significant other or family or friends, um, even if you don't want to damage that relationship, you know? So just really working on yourself and taking time for yourself to be like, why do I feel this way? Is it okay for me to feel this way? And obviously, it's okay for you to feel like all your emotions and just kind of knowing that, like, it's okay. Like, for me, when I'm angry, I'm like, this is not okay to feel angry. But then I push it off. And then the next time I get angry, it gets bigger and bigger. So, learning it's okay for me to be angry, but I can do it like in a healthy way and also just have support system if you need it.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Maya. Uh,
Yeah.
good to talk to you always, and it's especially nice to have the chance to interview you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.